Join us, Alix
and Colleen,
self-proclaimed fake it till you make it experts, as we navigate the highs and lows of being a woman and how the pressure and overwhelm of trying to do it all often leads to feeling like an imposter in our own lives.
In our second to last episode of the season, Colleen and I dive into the challenges of overcommitting, exploring its ties to people-pleasing, external validation, and the impact it can have on our confidence and our imposter syndrome.
Hey, Alix.
Hey, Colleen.
How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
You arrived, 10 seconds late today?
Well, I think it was like 10 minutes.
10 minutes?
I appreciate that.
We'll blame it on the parking.
Yes, well, I forgot the notes. We'll blame it on that.
Did you?
Yes, I sent you a text.
I didn't look at it. Listen, I didn't have time to look at a text. What are you talking about? Have you ever completely forgotten anything? Because here's the thing. When I always know you're going to be a little bit late, and I work it into my schedule. And I count on it because I think, anyway, and I never arrive somewhere going, oh, I wonder if Alix is going to show up. Like, I know you're coming. I always know you're coming. But have you ever completely forgotten to do something?
Not really. I usually am always running late. That's for sure. I think it's the ADHD thing where you just think you have a certain amount of time to get somewhere and it always takes longer. And I think I might actually self-sabotage myself a little bit too, because I know I have enough time, but I'm like, oh, I could use 5 more minutes and try to do something else. And then I'm always late. So, but I very rarely forget things or no-show things. Last week, though, I had the day wrong and almost forgot my mother's birthday.
Oh.
And that was a very traumatic experience for me. But I'm also in the menopause brain fog phase of my life. So things are just not as crisp as they used to be.
Right.
But
and
in my defense, I thought it was Monday and it was actually Tuesday.
Oh my God.
Anyway, whatever.
Honey.
It was horrible.
That would be horrible. I have forgotten, completely forgotten some stuff. And usually I have to write everything down now.
Yeah, I always do.
Yeah, do you as well?
Oh,
Yeah. Yeah. I forgot two, completely forgot. One was a meeting that happens monthly at my place at 9:00 in the morning. And all of a sudden I hear this knocking at my door, and it's a group of business women. There's 6 women that come to my place once a month, and we sit down and we discuss all kinds of things about our businesses. Anyway, I'm laying in bed and there's knocking at my door. I go to my door. I run to the door in the pajamas thinking something's on fire. And I open up the door and they're all standing there, all dressed, ready for this meeting. And I'm like, oh. Anyway, they burst out laughing. They didn't care. They know me, and they came and we started the meeting in my pajamas. So that was one. Another one, though, I'd gotten together with a bunch of high school girlfriends, and we decided instead of going away for a weekend, we were going to have an away weekend at my place. And everybody was going to bring food, and we were having a sleepover at my place. Yeah, I forgot. They show up at my place for a sleepover, and I am out. I'm out doing something. And they're texting me going, hey, Colleen, we're here for the sleepover weekend. Yeah, nothing.
Yeah, that has never happened to me. Mostly, I do write everything down. So that does save me.
What do you think? Okay, so menopause brain, yes.
Mm-hmm.
ADHD, yes.
Yes.
Just simply getting older as well plays a factor in it. But really what we're talking about today, I think, is a big part of it, and that's overcommitting.
Yes, which, inherently is part of people-pleasing.
Overcommitting is part of people-pleasing?
Well, it certainly is for me, and I think for a lot of people, it's that fear of saying no to something and then taking on too many things. And I'm not even talking about simply double booking or anything like that. I'm just talking about taking on more than you can handle and then being in a state of overwhelm, perhaps into burnout as well, because you're just in tune to say yes to everything and to want to make everything work.
Right.
And I think, too, the more balls you have in the air, if you've got children, if you've got other commitments, if you're involved in extracurriculars yourself, or your children are involved in other things, or you've got family obligations, in addition to whatever you're doing from a work perspective, your schedule can get filled up really, really quickly, leaving no time for, decompression or relaxation, rest, or resets, and oftentimes leaving no time for actual task work. Which is then when you see overflow into like evening and weekends, and kind of every moment is filled with trying to get things done, which is a fast track to nothing good.
No, nothing good. And I feel like I've got to get a handle on this at the moment, because the last 2 weeks, I haven't been like this. I seem to have everything together for the longest time, and then it all fell apart. And I think part of that is taking on a new client and trying to figure out then, because I'm at full roster now, then I have to figure out, okay, well, what extra types of things have I been doing that now? Like, I have to figure out my process now. I have to figure out my plan. And the last 2 weeks, I feel like I have had something on every morning, afternoon, evening. And I'm not even almost looking at my schedule until right before, and then like the night before, and then I'll go, okay, I got this in the morning and afternoon. And then in the morning, then I'm like, okay, this is the afternoon and evening. Like, I'm only a little step ahead of everything. Not the way I want to be.
It's not sustainable is the issue with that. And I understand it, especially when your client list increases relatively rapidly. And you're used to being able to work in a certain pace or a certain way, and then you have to kind of scale those activities, which takes some stepping back and kind of looking at your flows and your patterns, because you also want to optimize when you're at your best too, and make sure that you're scheduling in the things that you need to do when you're going to be the most efficient and effective, which also takes time and experience and understanding what's going on with you, and can change, if you've got something going on in your life personally that you need to carve out extra time for. And then there's also there's all the shit that just happens regardless, that flies at you.
Right.
And
just
you
life.
can't prepare for it.
Yeah.
So having some buffers built in to be able to accommodate that, so it doesn't send you into a complete spiral. And I'm saying you, I mean like generally, and I mostly mean me.
But let's talk me too. Like exactly. Well, you sent me a message yesterday, and I hadn't looked at Wednesday's schedule yet. And you were like, okay, so tomorrow's podcast, I think we should talk about blah, 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 blah. And I was like, oh yeah, we're doing a podcast tomorrow. Like that's where I was.
But I had scheduled it as a task for yesterday, pod ideas, because I knew I would be the same. And then I would wake up and be like, oh shit, what are we going to talk about? Whatever. So that's what I try to do. If I know I have a deliverable for something, I schedule it earlier in the week, so then it's on my mind. I also make sure I can see my entire week. Like my day timer, I have a very specific day timer where I can see each day.
Correct. I have the
open.
same. Mine's a full week, and it's
so I
open
can kind
to
of
the
just
week.
see what's happening, and then I can move things around if I need to. And if I don't get as much done one day, then I can move it to later in the week and that kind of thing.
Serving up hot brews, refreshing cold drinks, lots of fresh baked goodies, and delicious lunch options. Visit the Mellow Mug in the heart of Larry Utech for dine-in, takeout, or drive-through service. Their spacious cafe offers a casual and inviting vibe that's perfect for everything from enjoying a good book, hanging with friends, or meeting a colleague. The Mellow Mug is your neighborhood spot for great coffee and delicious eats and sweets. So I've been putting, though, all of my tasks on one side, like a big list. You're suggesting on
I task
individual
every day.
days.
I
to put the
assign, and this is
tasks.
something I learned way back, like 20 years ago in my first corporate job. My job, then they sent me to Outlook training. That's how fucking long
I
ago
used to
this
teach
was.
Outlook training. Hey, I wonder
Maybe
if I
you taught
taught
me.
you.
Oh my God.
Did you get it done at like PBSC, IBM?
I can't remember where it was. But
I bet I
maybe it
taught
was
you.
some weird place I've never been before.
Well, it was in Purdy's Wharf, or sometimes I did them out. Oh my God, can you imagine if I
That would
taught
be
you
so
Outlook?
insane.
Anyway, yeah, two of us. Anyway.
But that was you know how sometimes things you don't realize are going to be life-changing? Like, I think of this all the time that I took typing in high school.
My typing class,
The
best
most
class.
effective class I've ever taken.
Brilliant class,
You
yes.
know, like
And
be able
stupid,
to
sitting there
type
going A,
is just such
F,
a time
D, D.
saver.
Yeah.
So it was something like that, where
Yeah.
this seems like sort of whatever, but those skills that I learned in that class or that course I've used them ever since. Now they had a digital part then too. I've never been able to maintain a digital calendar.
Nor
I
can I.
need to be able to see things. I need to be able to cross them off. But the process is the same, and it's assigning tasks by day, and then with the ability to move those tasks later in the week if you don't finish them.
I totally probably taught this.
And you're not doing it.
And I'm not doing it. So that's those who, what do they say? Those who can't
Who's
do
that
teach
can't
or
do
whatever.
teach,
So yeah, I need to go back to the drawing board and look at some of the things that I taught in those Lotus Notes, Outlook, those types of courses, because you're right. And I even taught like making these, I think they were called Gantt charts or something, where you for project management, you move things around. I probably need to revisit some of that. I hadn't needed to up until my roster was full. And now it's like,
It's good. Like I use it not just for work, for everything. But I also have a very specific day timer that each day has two sides. So all my meetings are on one side and all my tasks are on the other side. And I've used this specific day timer for years, and it's the only one I will use because of that.
Okay.
Because then I can kind of match things to days and be like, okay, well, I have 2 office days, so I'm going to pack those full of stuff. And then I kind of leave the rest of the week open because I have a couple days where I'm doing meetings and things. And then whatever I don't get done during those 2 days, I kind of filter into the other days, unless there's something that is very specific for that day that I need to do. Like I do my banking on a certain day, so I have that marked in there just so I remember to do my banking and update my cash flow and, pay my bills and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, even things like that, people's birthdays. I even had my fucking mother's birthday written in there, and I looked at it all day. Anyway, I'm not over it.
You were so hurt. You were so upset. I saw
burst
you
into
the
tears
next
when I
day.
realized.
And you were sending me messages, and then I saw you the next day. I'm like, oh,
it's so
poor
not like
Alix.
me. Anyway, whatever. But those kind of things, if Carrie has something going on that I need to be aware of, I mark the PD days in there so I can plan ahead for those if I need to, or if he has got appointments. And I just find that very easy to stay, so I don't forget things.
Yeah.
But that doesn't stop me from overcommitting.
Right. No, that's the thing. I mean, certainly when the kids were younger, I remember the big mom calendar and everything color coded and sticky notes that you could move around and all that sort of stuff. So maybe I need to get back to some sort of a process like that for myself to remember. But
It's
you're
very helpful.
right. It's not stopping the
No.
actual over committing.
Yes. The problem with that is, like I said at the top, I think for me, it comes back to people pleasing and that need for external validation, which I really still struggle with, even though I've been trying very hard to overcome that. It's very difficult. It's ingrained in me, unfortunately. And saying no to people or disappointing people or how I perceive that's going to go is very, very difficult. And so I try to make things work.
Well, the problem is the only person you're disappointing is yourself.
Yes.
Like I know for the last couple of weeks, you and I trying to get our regular, we have a regular standing date, you and I. And that was getting messed up.
Yeah.
And I felt like it was affecting both of us.
Yeah.
But we were so busy with work, and you would say to me, I don't think I could make it. And I'd be like, oh, okay, great, almost,
Yeah.
But then the day of, where we would normally have our, time together, I'd be like, oh my God, we need it, and
Yeah.
And so really in the end, the only people getting disappointed are yourself. So you're not getting to do the things that you really want to do when you're trying to do it for everybody else, whether that's work or all the other stuff, right?
And I've had a pretty good handle on it. I feel now I'm in a bit of I've slid back a little bit, in terms of boundaries and different things that were kind of keeping me ahead of the game.
Right.
And that happens based on what's going on with life or, how much resolve I have in the tank, which has not been fucking much lately. I can tell you that. Jesus. So that's obvious. It's obvious to me that things are kind of sliding because I have let myself get a little bit over capacity and I'm not sleeping as well.
Right.
And just all the things that I know I need to have in place to be able to make better decisions and control my schedule a little bit more. So I'm in the process of reining it in, which is why I thought it would be a really great topic.
Yeah.
Because of this connection of overcommitment and imposter syndrome. Because ultimately, when you are extending yourself too much, you're not going to be able to perform in the way that you want to. And that just feeds into that little voice of, you don't know what you're doing or you're not enough or all those things that kind of feed that imposter syndrome monster.
Right.
So,
and that hit me last week. I had delay. I was not that I was late. I wasn't even late. It was something, expectations were a little bit different maybe between me and a client on something. And a client sent me a message and said, hey, are you going to post this today? Anyway, I wasn't. I had a big thing being posted the next day, like a really big thing it's that I'd spent hours on. And she said, are you going to post this today? And then all of a sudden I went into panic mode of, oh gosh, I didn't do it. And she's going to be upset. There, I don't want to upset anybody. And then next thing I'm in there and I'm doing all this stuff. No, I read it wrong. I read her wrong. I then went off on some kind of tangent doing all this work that I didn't need to do because
you don't want to disappoint
I didn't
someone.
want to disappoint. And the imposter syndrome hit me so hard because I felt for a second I was failing, and I wasn't.
Yeah.
It was that I wasn't communicating properly because, again, I was overcommitted and hadn't taken the time to explain it. Instead, I just went into spiral mode,
Yeah, and when that happens too, it kind of takes everything else that you've had on the table for that day and shoves it aside.
Sure did,
And then you have to find places for that too. So it's sort of this self-fulfilling prophecy in that you can never really get ahead because of these fires or perceived fires that are popping up. And there was something I shared, it was a while ago now because I haven't been posting much, but it was about their urgency doesn't necessarily have to be your emergency. And that's something I go back to a lot.
Correct.
A lot. Because just because somebody has changed their mind about something or, wants to do a different direction immediately doesn't mean that it's your responsibility to act immediately.
Right.
And that's something that I had to really learn the hard way because I was constantly dropping everything and, making that a priority and wasting a lot of time doing that.
I think when you're right, though, when you're so customer focused, which we both are, and you're people pleasing, the second somebody says, hey, can we do such and such, even if it wasn't on the plan, even if it was out of the scope of what you're supposed to be doing, suddenly you're like, oh, okay. And you're trying to get it all done. But somebody else suffers. And usually it's me or my house. You should have, my house has been a wreck. And now I did a deep clean over the last couple of days, but prior to that, in the middle of all of this, I think because I've had so much going on, I'm like emptying cupboards. Why my brain is choosing at these moments to, I think I'll clean the linen closet, and then it all gets taken out of the linen closet and then not put away. So every table surface in my house was filled with stuff, but I feel, that's your house. I've always said it, that I feel like when my house is a mess, it's because my brain is a mess, right?
Yeah,
like
I think
when
there's
I
a
look
lot.
around, it's like, because I don't have things organized in my brain.
Well, and I think there's a lot of research to support that, that your environment really dictates your effectiveness and your efficiency. Now, I survive in a much lower standard of cleanliness than you do. But I also feel that too, if things get too overwhelmed or too off the charts, then I start to really feel that in terms of everything about my life.
Right. But look at what you did when the last couple of weeks when you've been very busy, you've taken on crocheting like it's a full-time job.
I know. Well, that's an issue that I have, that I just can't do anything for fun.
Right?
Yeah, that's ridiculous. But I'm trying to rein that in too and put some boundaries on how much crocheting I'm doing. But
Right.
I think that also is the ADHD, the hyperfixation, and then wanting to see results. And with crocheting, you get to a certain point and you want to see how it's going to turn out. And I just want to see. I want to get to that part instead of just enjoying the relaxing kind of meditative state of doing it. So
Right.
that's just a life lesson for me, but not one that I have seemed to have learned in the last 47 years.
Add another decade. And you got me beat if you get it figured out in the next decade, let's say.
Anyway, there was something I was going to say about all of that, but it has escaped me because brain fog.
Brain fog. So, okay, we both overcommit. And I'm sure many people on here overcommit. And I think we need to really take a hard look because things tend to suffer. And it's not going to be the clients the work is going to get done. I want to work at the highest standard that I can possibly work. So the work's going to get done.
I
But
do
the
remember
thing,
what I was going to say, though.
okay.
It was that you had said, I want to make sure my clients are happy and drop everything. And I think there's a happy medium there.
Okay.
Like I said, the emergency thing. And I think there's a real benefit, especially when you're growing and establishing your relationship with a new client, to make sure that there's some priority there. And sometimes you do have to drop things and make that a priority while you're building that relationship. And I really strongly believe that you need to make yourself an invaluable asset to your client. And sometimes that means doing things that maybe you wouldn't do in a more established client relationship.
Right.
So maybe that does mean, okay, I will drop this and get this out for you because I want you to know that I am an invaluable asset to you. But there's other times when maybe it's like it happens very frequently and there's people are kind of taking advantage of that's when you have to kind of have a little bit of understanding about whether or not the return on investment is there. And that's really technical and businessy to say, because I do really think client relationships are huge, especially in the type of business that we do. And you want to just make people's life easier. That's why they're hiring you. That is 100% why they're hiring you, so that their life is easier. And anything you can do to do that, especially when you're growing, 100%.
Yeah. And I guess that's part of it, with having newer, one established and then two newer clients is that, the second somebody says, hey, can you do this? I'm like, I'm on it.
Yeah. And, that's stuff you have to kind of balance
and
too.
you do. But so the clients, to me, the clients aren't going to suffer. That the work's going to get done, but it's the other stuff in my life. For me, one of the things that I feel like I'm dropping the ball on right now is spending as much time with mom and dad as I was spending. But then when I look at it, I'm like, did I really need to be spending as much time with my mom and dad as I was spending? Or is that now is that space being now filled up with me having a full-time roster rather than, when I had more time. So whether it was watching TV or dropping by mom and dad's or going out for a drive or going to Home Sense, but I still need to be able to balance me having some space and some time. You know what I mean? It can't all
because
be
otherwise,
work.
what is the point?
Yeah.
The reason that we got into being entrepreneurs or having our own businesses is to have that flexibility. So if you realize that all of a sudden you don't have any flexibility, that you're not really able to be present at home or have that downtime to do the things that you like to do, then, it's kind of, we've lost the plot, as the youths like to say.
As the Utes. I just think I don't have my process down. I don't even think that, I just think I need to figure it out. And I think you've got a lot of that figured out. Your Monday, Tuesday, and then your...
Yeah, that is very helpful.
That's not quite working with me. I thought I would start that way, but it's not. So I have to just figure out my process.
Well, you have to figure out, too, what works with your clients, because it's very specific to your clients and their line of business and what their availability is. For me, Monday and Tuesday happens to work quite well.
Yeah.
I like it because I can ease in off the weekend. I don't get the Sunday scaries because I know I kind of have a couple days to just get some task work done. I don't have to look nice if I don't want to. Yeah, so I like that, but that works with my schedule. And it took me a long time to get into that groove too. I tried out a few different things, but the important part is to have that time for task work. Because if you don't have time for task work, then you're really gonna
you're not getting your work done.
Well, it's just gonna make sure that it's going to ensure that you have no time to yourself.
Yeah. Looking to relax and rejuvenate? Treat yourself at Bello Day Spa. Located in the heart of Bedford West, from luxurious facials and brow services to soothing massages, waxing, and perfect manis, pedis, their team has you covered. Bello Day Spa isn't just a place for pampering. Their friendly staff will help you find the perfect skincare products from their wide selection of premium lines. Ready to refresh your routine? Book your appointment today and discover why Bello Day Spa is your neighborhood go-to spot for relaxation and self-care. Bello Day Spa, your local relaxation retreat. Yeah. Okay. So I have to figure that out. And so if you're out there feeling overcommitted, you have to figure that out too. I mean, you're right. We need to put up some boundaries. We have to stop being people pleaser all the time to a point.
Yeah. Well, this quote, which is really interesting, Dr. Susan David,
a
psychologist from Harvard Medical School. People pleasing can be a form of emotional self-censorship, which is a really interesting statement.
Break that down. Wait, say that again. People pleasing
can be a form of emotional censorship. Individuals suppress their true emotions to maintain external harmony. So you're censoring your actual own self to please everyone else and make sure that everyone else is okay. And in the meantime, your own, what's important to you is like thrown out the window.
Do you think that's part of being a woman, part of being a mom, or not? Or maybe the stronger women aren't doing that. Maybe they...
I think all those elements definitely come into play. I also think it's sort of a factor of our generation and how society kind of made us feel like we needed to be everything for everybody. I think for me, it comes down to like needing a lot of external validation, as I mentioned, which is also kind of ties into people pleasing. So I think there's a number of elements, certainly being a woman and being thought to be the kind of glue that holds together the family, the house, that kind of thing. I don't really subscribe to that. My husband would definitely say that. I don't. I mean, I think, we do a good job of holding things together.
Sure you do.
Together.
Yeah.
But me as a housemaker is kind of hilarious.
You listen, you're shitting on yourself because I have spent time in your home.
I cleaned it
that is
when you were
cozy
coming over.
and lovely and wonderful. I'm going to have to show up like out of the blue. No, I wouldn't recommend doing that to me right now either. Somebody sent me a message the other day. They were out hiking and they were going to drop by for a visit. And I'm like, oh no, I'm busy. Sorry. But I was busy. I was going into a meeting within an hour, but I thought I can't have that person in this house. Like was bad.
I mean, I've seen your house. It's mostly always pristine. So I'm sure it's nothing compared to how
I couldn't even take photos.
Our home gets.
Yeah. Okay. So how do we fix all of this? The boundaries, like you said.
The boundaries piece is huge.
Yes.
And I think getting more organized with their schedule is also a big part of it, because if you have a very good idea of what your week looks like, you can say no or yes to things with more kind of data to drive your decisions. I do find that a little bit more challenging when I'm out on the go because I have a paper day timer.
Yeah.
And I don't carry it with me.
Same, and I don't carry it with me. Yeah.
It's kind of big. But so I try not to commit to things unless I'm in front of my calendar.
Yeah.
And then if I do commit to them, sometimes I have to move them. But it is kind of, I book meetings out like 2 or 3 weeks out now. Don't usually ever book anything the week of unless it's like time sensitive.
Yeah, I don't book week of. I'm a week out though.
And that helps a little bit in terms of having too much going on, because if you can kind of look at your week at a snapshot of it, then you can see where the holes and gaps might be that you may have some time. Yeah. And then really getting a very good understanding about how long things take you to do. Because that's also something that is a huge struggle, and particularly with ADHD too, because there's this like weird time blindness or whatever it is, where you think something's going to take you this amount of time and it ends up taking like twice that. That's really important, because if you book some tasks in a day when you have a couple meetings, or you book several like very time consuming or very resource heavy tasks, then you can't do the other ones because your brain is spent. So trying to group things that you need to do so that they play nice together. So if you have a lot of like heavy lifting kind of tasks where you're going to do a lot of thinking or you're going to need a lot of creative output, then having some milder like admin style tasks paired with that, so that once you kind of burn through all your best creative work, then maybe you like clean up your inbox or, send out invoices or whatever those things might be for you. That helps too.
Yeah.
Because nothing worse than being like, for me anyway, 3 or 4 in the afternoon and having something really big that I need to get done. That is like horror movie.
No, and
then
me. you feel like a big, and that's when the imposter syndrome comes in, that you just feel like you don't have it together, or you're a big loser, or you're faking it, or all of those types of things.
Yeah.
When you're not, you're just not using your time wisely, or you're not, what do they say? Work smarter, not harder.
Yes.
Or,
Yeah, in theory.
And I think right now I'm working harder, not smarter. And then what all this, the reason we do talk about all of this, it's not just, yes, imposter syndrome, you feel bad, you feel like an idiot, you feel like you're not doing the right things, but bigger than all of that, which that's big on its own, but bigger than all of that is burnout.
Yeah, which is where you'll lead to
Right.
if you don't get some of those systems in place, because ultimately, if you go, and don't leave any time for rest or regeneration or even processing, then there's no other place to be except for into the cycle of burnout, and it can be very, very hard to backtrack from that, as we know. So yeah, being able to identify the signs, number one. When things are, for me, that's when I start to feel really panicked at the end of the day, or I look at my tasks and I'm like, there's no way I can complete this week. Then that's a really good indicator to me that I've got too much on the go and I need to sort some things out, and I need to start saying no to meetings, and I need to start giving more realistic timelines. Like I just had to say no to a huge contract because I just knew if I took it on, I was going to spiral into a really bad place.
Yes. Okay.
And it's hard. It's hard to say no to clients
the timeline.
And revenue is one thing, but it's also reputation. Like you don't want to be out there quoting on things and then not being able to go through with them. And this was like a timeline thing where they didn't get back to me in time. So it wasn't entirely my fault, but I still felt shitty about it.
Yeah.
And I hate to say, no, see ya to business and revenue, but at the cost that I knew that it would throw me over the edge, I had to.
I was proud of you. I thought that was great. I mean, I know it was difficult. It's hard to turn away from the revenue, but you would have done yourself in. It would have been.
I was already not sleeping thinking about trying to do it. So I was like, that's a pretty good indicator that I cannot take this on right now.
Right.
So, but it's understanding those feelings and knowing when you're getting into that. And that's because I've gotten myself into those situations so many times that I know that when I start to feel panicked about it and I start to feel like, I don't know what I'm doing and you're not good at this and all this other stuff because of these tight timelines, that it's just a recipe for disaster.
There's no worse feeling than taking on a project that you don't have time for and therefore you're not comfortable with.
And won't do as good of a job. And it was something I was really excited about doing because it was new and it was sort of more in line with what I really want to do.
Yeah.
But I knew that I wouldn't be, given the timelines, would not be able to do it in the way that I want to.
But you know what they say? When one door closes, even if you close the door, another one opens.
See, I can't afford any more doors.
You can't do doors starting shutting. Alix is going to be a wreck.
That's not true. But I just, it's identifying those signs and understanding what it's going to mean for you and determining what that return on investment is.
Yes.
And not, being able to put things in place. And I did offer an alternative timeline. In this case, it didn't really work out. So understanding how it makes you feel when you're overextended and really documenting those feelings, because you'll feel them. You'll feel them in your body. You'll feel like you can't sleep. You'll feel like nervousness. You'll feel like panicked and I need to get this done. I need to get that done. I need to shift this, and this. If that starts happening, it's a good sign that you probably have overcommitted.
You've overcommitted. The burnout component, when you overcommit for an extended period of time and you hit burnout, which I have hit burnout before, oh man, the imposter syndrome that comes with burnout. That's unreal. I tell you, we've had her on the podcast. We did a live networking podcast with her, Dr. Ashley Murgis, and she is, to me, the expert on burnout 100%. and on treating women with burnout. She really, truly knows her stuff. So if you're not following her podcast, what's it called? The Superwoman Code. Yeah. She really and truly, and she's also dealing a lot now with perimenopause and menopause and getting women, helping women, guiding women through this sort of thing.
I think the two go hand in hand.
I do
many,
too.
Many ways.
Yeah, I do too. I think it's a lot. I think, we're trying to be all the things and do all the things in your 40s and 50s, and this menopause thing and perimenopause thing coming at us is shutting all those goals
I've said
down.
It many, many, many times that this is one of the hardest stages of my life. And in a lot of ways, it shouldn't be. I am established. I have a career. I have my family, I have all these things, but at the same time, there's a lot of responsibility and pressure to keep everything afloat. And particularly when you're an entrepreneur, to make sure that you have enough money coming into the household, and you're balancing that, but also being available to your partner and to your children and to your friends. Like, that's definitely the thing that's fallen off the rail for me the most, is the social engagements. I basically have been a hermit for 6 months. And part of that is winter, but also part of it is I just haven't had it in me to be social. And that has a huge impact. Like all of a sudden you wake up one day and you're like, I don't really have any friends.
Yeah, where are all my friends gone?
And it's,
where'd all my friends go?
And it's my fault. I haven't put the effort in to maintain those relationships or to carve out time for that or make it a priority. And that can be really easy to do, to fall off of that kind of stuff. So.
One of the ways to combat imposter syndrome is to actually listen to how awesome the people in your life think you are. If you're looking for the perfect gift for a loved one, where you can tell them all of the things that make them special, visit my Drawbridge Creative Etsy shop and purchase a Things We Love About You custom poster. With several styles to choose from, it's a fabulous gift for any milestone birthday, anniversary, retirement, or just because. Yeah, I don't think you're the only, a lot of women I think out there are feeling it. And the last, I don't know, I think you're right. The last 6-8 months or something, I'm home on a lot of Friday and Saturday nights thinking, and I'm working sometimes. I'm like puttering away on my phone, working or whatever. And I'm like, this is weird. I wonder what everyone else is doing on a Friday or Saturday night.
I might not be working Friday night, but I'm definitely TikToking.
You're TikToking. Yeah.
Browsing, not actually making TikToks.
I don't know if COVID has changed that for a lot of us too, that people seem to, I feel like maybe everybody's out there having these great lives. But then when I talk to other people, they're like, no, I'm just home doing nothing. Like watch TV on the couch. Like I don't know. Things have changed in this decade.
I don't drink very much anymore. And that used to be
Same.
a huge social driver for me because I'm very introverted.
Right.
And I find it very difficult to be in social situations. And I cannot deal with being hungover.
No.
So I don't really drink that much anymore, which makes me not as apt to do things as social, which is
Right.
also something I'm working on, not having to rely on that.
Yeah.
Haven't quite succeeded yet. So I haven't really found a way to be social in a way that's enjoyable for me and not super intimidating and also exhausting.
Right.
Because our social interactions are supposed to be fueling us back up. So if they're also draining you.
I know, because it's like
not
too much
good.
people.
Yeah.
Too many people.
Right?
Too much people.
So it's
Yeah.
finding that happy balance because right now have no people. I see you.
Yeah.
I see my family.
Yeah.
And that's
There's
about
where it
which-
ends.
And I
Yeah.
love you and you're great. And
Yeah.
you definitely provide a lot of social fueling for me.
I'm like a clown. I am your weekly clown.
That's right.
Yeah.
Except there's not enough magic and
No,
tricks
there isn't.
going on.
I'm not doing enough tricks.
Anyway, all that to say,
I know it's difficult, and I think it's this stage of life that we're in, and it's tough. I was talking to another friend the other day, and she made this comment about, in 10, 15 years down the road, because really they're starting to do so much research on menopause and women's health and stuff like that. She said, I feel like in 15 years, 10 years, there's going to be this pill. There's going to be this medication that women take between 45 and 65. Automatically. Every woman, you turn 45, you start taking this medication until you're 60, 65. And it's going to just make women feel better. But I'm going to be long past that age of getting that magic potion.
maybe you're the one who has to create it.
Maybe, but I don't think so. I'm not that smart. But I'm going to be on the other side of it going, you guys are so lucky. You got the magic pill. Because I feel like we're battling against so much at this age. And it's all of those menopause symptoms and all of that brain mess and all of that imposter syndrome and everything's just it's not easy. It's not easy.
It's funny, my son, who's 13, he came home the other day and he's like, Mom, I think something's going on. Like, my moods, is it normal for me to be really happy one moment and like really upset the next and not really understand why? He's like, I don't know, is it hormones? And I was like, yes, it is. It's
yes, it
puberty,
is.
and I am going through it with you in reverse.
You are.
It's a real treat to be in our house for Matt.
Right? You are puberty and menopause at the exact same time.
What a fun time to be in the Robinson household.
My God, I'm not dropping in on you. Never mind. I take back my
So there's a lot of highs and lows and extremes, and thankfully Matt is very diplomatic and calming.
He's so lovely. Let's shout out to Matt.
I know he doesn't listen, but
okay. Well, shout out to Matt anyway.
He, and sometimes that can be very helpful to have someone that's sort of the opposite of you, particularly when there's two of you that are, volatile.
Volatile. It's like it is. The rage and the mood swings of menopause are unbelievable.
Yeah. I feel like I had a little bit of practice with the PMDD, which I just got under control in time for my menopause. So I'm like, oh, I've been here before.
Yeah. It was shocking to me. The rage was shocking to me. And then, of course, during my menopause journey or perimenopause journey, that's when ADHD came out for me.
Yes, which is pretty common.
It is pretty common. Yeah. And so now that's all a new journey for me. And I still have the hot flashes on a continual basis, even though I'm, menopausal now, but it's all different. This is a really tough time of life. And at the same time, we're trying to make money. Like you said, you're trying to bring in, revenue, and you're trying not to look like an idiot while you're doing it all, right?
Yeah, and I mean, it's very expensive to live right now. Globally, the world's a bit of a shit show. There's a lot of uncertainty out there in terms of even what the world's going to look like in a few years. So there's a lot to consider and a lot on our brains at all times. Yeah. So more important than ever to make sure that we're scheduling in time to do nothing. Honestly, to just nothing. Decompress or escape a little bit if you want to on social media or have a good book or, just have time where there's nothing scheduled for you and have a conversation with your family that time is like, you need time.
It's some sacred time.
Well, even Matt and I had this conversation because he was playing hockey during the winter 3, sometimes 4 times a week. And during that time, I would have sort of my bed scroll time.
Yes.
Or watch a show that I liked or, do something around the house. And then he stopped playing hockey until he starts playing again in the summer. And we had to have that conversation. And I had already kind of recognized it, but I didn't want to be a bitch. And he was like, maybe part of what's going on is that you don't have your built-in alone time. And I was like, yes, it's 100% what's going on.
Get away
I know
from
that.
me.
So he's like, well, maybe we need to sometimes you go in this room and do what you need to do and whatever else. So even having those conversations with your family, now Carrie hasn't quite got the memo yet, but.
Well, he's 13 and he's going through his own stuff.
That I need to have this time and it needs to be without anyone around me.
And I think you're right.
Allowing yourself not to feel guilty about that.
Right. Scheduling it in, scheduling some time in. If Sunday morning is the morning that you're going to get up and you're going to go to the market and you're going to spend some time, you're going to pick up some veggies and you're just going to stroll the waterfront, whatever you're going to do, make that your ritual, your time, your moment. Or if it's reading a book or if it's, like you said, scrolling on TikTok when you're laying in bed, whatever it is, you have to find those moments. And if you need to schedule them in right now because you're feeling overcommitted, commit to yourself too, right? Find the time on your schedule to put some time in for yourself. I need to do that. I need to do that better.
I can tell when I haven't because the thoughts in my head get really loud and there's nowhere for them to go. So I kind of visualize it like those times are the times for the thoughts to empty out. There's always a lot of conversations that I'm having with myself in my head all of the time. Yeah. And if I don't have time for those kind of to work themselves out with no one else talking at me, then they get too compacted.
They're little,
and then I can't concentrate, and then I start to get really upset, overstimulated, and that's where the sensory stuff plays into for me too, because there's stuff that's trying to get worked out in my brain, and it hasn't had the time to work itself out. And if I don't get that time for those things, then I start to get into panic mode, and that's when I'm snapping more at Carrie than I want to be, or not as just not as productive and not feeling like myself.
Yeah. So yeah. Well, I think, Alix, you and I need to challenge ourselves a little bit to work better, work smarter, And, summer's coming. So we want to both enjoy some summer. We want to enjoy, you don't want to be stressed out working all summer and then the fall comes and then, we need to
and I think
take some time.
Like boundaries are really important, but also self-compassion and grace for things. Reframing failure is really, really helpful. And also reframing success, which I've talked about a lot, and I talk about a lot in my business, is those success measures that we're using. Are they actually ours? Are they society driven? Revenue is great, and certainly we want to make enough money to live a comfortable life. But at what expense? How comfortable do we need to be, and what do we lose in that? Are we losing our ability to be selective about the kind of work that we're doing? Are we losing our ability to be a present family member? Are we losing the time that we have for ourselves or socially? So just really understanding what success is and redefining failure and giving ourselves compassion while we get there.
Yeah.
Because it's not a one-way, linear process. It's figuring out what works best with your schedule. It's making little changes and tweaks here and there, and understanding that some weeks are just going to be shitty.
Yeah.
And then building in some time to repair and decompress.
Yeah, you need to have some of that. I think you have to have some time built. If you're constantly working to the moment, that, and you don't have any time built in. When things go shitty, things go really shitty because now your work's not going to, you need to have some buffer time for when you're having a bad day or a bad week or a sick kid or a sick parent.
Exactly.
Or you
some
need
days you're just not there. You don't have it.
Or, some days you just don't have it.
Yeah.
We're going through a lot with, like you said, menopause and ADHD and stuff like that. And if you're waking up in the morning and your anxiety is too much, maybe if you've got some room built in your schedule or, that you're not constantly working to the moment.
Yeah.
If you wake up and you're having a bad day, well, you know what? Give yourself some grace and take the bad day.
Yeah.
Take that day and say, you know what? I think I'm going to jump in the car and go to Lunenburg today. I'm going to poke around some stores that make me happy. I'm going to go to the gym. I'm going to do something, or I'm going to go visit my parents. Take some time, but if you don't have that buffer built in, you're right. You're just constantly, you're a hamster on a wheel is all you are. Yeah.
And I think I've said that in a previous episode too, that I buffer in my tasks even. Like I put them sooner than they need to be in case something like that happens.
Right.
And I wake up and my mind's just not working with it, or Carrie's homesick, or, other things that come up that I need to do, or just not really productive. I have lots of days where I wake up and I just cannot get out of my own way. Being able to blow off that afternoon and go thrifting for a little bit and then restart the next day is very helpful.
I like that. I'm such a procrastinator. That's one of my ADHD things is such a big procrastinator that, and I've always told myself that I work better.
Part of that is probably true.
Some things. Like I work better under stress, but I don't want to be
stressed. You got to lie to
yourself
yourself about your deadlines. That's
right.
all.
I need to lie to myself about my deadlines. Like, yeah, you're right. I need to put that into my schedule. Okay, I'm going to do that. Yeah. So if you're listening out there, we're with you.
Right now, spring going into summer is a really great time to almost take an audit of how you're working and thinking about the things that are working for you and what aren't, because summer can sometimes be a bit of a slower work time for people. It can ramp up in terms of social engagements, but right now might be a great time to take an audit of how your schedule works, how you're working with clients or your own job or your other responsibilities, and, make some notes and maybe a few little tweaks and see what works.
Yeah.
But, be patient and give yourself a lot of grace, because change is hard.
Change is hard, and we're here for you. We get it. We get it.
We do.
Yeah. So thanks for listening, and
see you next Tuesday.
See you next Tuesday.
We never say that anymore.
We don't. I was thinking that the other day. We've grown up.
We have.
No, we haven't.
Okay.
Don't be ridiculous.
Thanks so much for tuning in to this episode of Imposter Sisters. Please remember, we're not doctors or mental health experts. If you're looking for mental health guidance, please see our show notes for local resources. Until next time, keep your head high, and we will see you next Tuesday.